Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you're watching this or listening to this. My name is Yuri Castro, and it is with great pleasure that I welcome Marcia Trajano, my co host for the Seeds of Knowledge series. How are you, Marcia?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having me, Yuri.
Thank you so much for coming here today. And just wanted to say that if this is the first time that you're tuning into one of our discussions about Spiritism or a topic regarding Spiritism, I just wanted to let you know that we have the Solitude Center for Spiritual Living provides these talks every first and third Sundays of every month. So you can tune in on those dates to check out more talks regarding Spiritism. And today, as we're approaching Christmas, such a happy and blessed time, Marcia is going to be talking about this very important yet very interesting notion and topic of Jesus Christ and the spiritual meaning of Christmas. So I'm very curious just by reading the title if we're going to be hearing more about who Jesus was, his message, and the meaning behind everything regarding Christmas and his the way he was born and all of that. So I'm very curious, but I'm gonna handle the microphone to you, Marcia. So you have the floor, and
All
I'll see you
right.
guys in a couple of minutes.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. I'll see you soon. And let's go ahead and get started, right? I just want to echo Yuri's message of welcoming. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. And as you mentioned, we're just a few days shy from our Western world as we celebrate Christmas. And at this point, I just wanted to share my message of peace, of love, of light, so that all of us will we have our hearts filled of the love that really covers our planet. And wanted to perhaps just pause to center ourselves and, in a way, perhaps even breathe slowly to feel the gratitude for this moment that we're together and that we pause to reflect upon Jesus, the reason for Christmas, right? So, Christmas is often remembered as the birth of Jesus in Bethlehem. Spiritism, however, invites us to go deeper, right? Let's look at it. Christmas as a psychological, spiritual, and transformative event. As I see it, and I am reminded every time I'm here, I'm speaking to you, I am studying, I am just enlightened more and more. I can see that Christmas, it's an opportunity for renewal and again, opening who we are deep inside in our hearts to the light of Christ. So, the proposal here is to explore a little bit of Jesus' life and teachings through the lens of Spiritism, understanding how his example can be an example that can strengthen our sense of brotherhood, fraternity, love, inspire hope, and guide us toward a renewed sense of purpose for the coming year. But I would be remiss if I did not first acknowledge the sources guiding our reflections today. And as you can see there, Heaven and Hell, the Gospel According to Spiritism, the Spirit's Book, all part of Allan Kardec and Spiritist basic foundational works. You see references also Andre Luis through the mediumship of Chico Xavier. Specifically, we can learn about Jesus through the writings around Between Heaven and Earth, Nosula, The Messengers, Emmanuel in his beautiful books, Live in Spring. And The Way, the Truth, and the Life also speaks of Jesus. And of course, as a student of Joanna de Angelis, I could not do anything without referencing her, specifically Glorious Days. It's a small book, as well as Jesus in the Gospel in the Light of Deep Psychology. So, with these foundations, let us get together to examine Jesus' life through the Spiritist lens. Spiritism teaches that Jesus is a member of a community of pure and elect spirits chosen by God to guide humanity. Right. So when we start to understand the important role of Jesus as our brother, but as such the governor who guides us in this planet, we start to see that his time with us on earth was part of this divine plan. And quite importantly, his greatest lesson is one that is not about grandeur, although he has the the capability and the possibility to do so, but he chose not to, right? So he brought us his lessons, not, as I said, in the sense of limelight, grandiosity, grandeur, or even power, but he brought with the main message of humility. He was born, as we know, and we're celebrating now, in a simple stable among animals. And in doing so, he demonstrated that spiritual truth transcends wealth, status, or even ceremony, right? So it's important that we also read that this humble birth is quite symbolic. It teaches that the essence of spiritual life is not found in outward appearances or titles or roles or wealth, right? But in simplicity of our hearts and the humility of our spirits. So, with that in mind, we find that it was no accident. Humility and simplicity were the context and the conditions through which humanity could receive this pure revelation of love and redemption that Jesus brought to us. Love and redemption. He is our great consoler, right? So 2000, a little bit more than 2000 years ago, our world was immersed in what? In religious confusion, not just that, the moral disorder, religious beliefs and practices of the time we already said, but confusing, but often led to pride, to vanity, and even cruelty. So it's important to denote this context to understand even more the need for the choice of Jesus and his humble surroundings and a life within poor communities that demonstrated that that spiritual truth will transcend all of that uh, need for grandeur. And in fact, wisdom, love, and all the virtues will not, does, they do not require the trappings of what we would consider the world of prestige. So it's very interesting if you think about it. It's almost like a dichotomy. We tend to have this gravitas for those that dress a certain way, that behave a certain way, that demonstrate a level of education, intelligence, etc., etc. And he's saying, no, not necessary. It's all about the purity of the heart. And if we get out a little bit of spiritist teachings, but go for example, from a philosophical input, Immanuel Kant, his notion of a moral law is that law within, that it quite resonates here, because Kant said the true ethical behavior arises from the sense of inner duty, not external validation. So, of course, centuries later, he validates that. But if we think about it, from humility, we move to the essence of Jesus' teachings, which is all about love. In fact, I would say the essence of Jesus above all else is the love of God, the love of neighbors, and love of all beings. And he brings to us this universal principle of the law, as we all know: love God above all things and your neighbor as yourself. We could stop for parenthesis, and when we start to study other theologists, we see that this universal law brings so much unpacked in so few words, especially as the neighbor, as the other, the stranger, the one that we fear, that we don't understand. Therefore, especially in our inheritance, if you will, of a past of clans and tribes that would protect each other against the other. When Jesus brings love your neighbor as yourself, he is implying that revolutionary teachings that here during Christmas we are all reminded. Let's love one another. Let's love those that are not like me, that maybe they do not speak the same language, that do not look like me, that maybe have a different socioeconomic status, that may have different, I'm playing here, but different soccer teams, or they're born in different parts of the world. It does not matter. We all share our membership of this human race. Therefore, we are all brothers and sisters. But, anyways, from the teachings about love, Jesus also teaches that love transforms, harmonizes society, and most importantly, heals all of our suffering. When practiced sincerely, love allows us to transcend selfishness and our ego, echoing the Spiritist view that morality is the path of self improvement and spiritual elevation. So we can say love cannot be separate from forgiveness, prayer, commitment, loyalty, etc., etc. Right? So when we talk about forgiveness, we're reminded that forgiveness is this pass, if you will, to free our soul from resentment. And it's a choice, right? We can live when we are hurt, or even when we hurt somebody else for whatever reason. And we fall prey to many different things, including, as I am the victim of this hurt, I am now resenting the other. Or if I am the person who perpetrated, if you will, that hurt, I am now feeling guilt, regardless of the bond that ties the two individuals is one that can be quite troublesome. So forgiveness is that pass, right? It will cut the ties between the two people so that both can be free to move on. But what is forgiveness, and how can I do this, right? And I ask that, and we have to say that the true forgiveness is not one that, remember, perhaps, I know, I've done that to my kids, and I know my parents is that to me. Come on, you too, right? As we're children, forgive each other. And yes, your brother broke your favorite doll, but you have to forgive. And not only that, go ahead and give each other a hug. I know I do this. And we are taught, no, 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 that does not count. We really need to be sincere for forgiveness to truly count, right? And beyond being sincere, um, it must be forgiveness without pride or even a sense of humiliation, right? And the power of prayer, if it's hard for us, can connect us with the divine energy to offer us guidance and strength, and that fidelity, if you will, to God, that sense of loyalty in alignment with the divine laws, because when we are aligned, then we have the foundations for, yes, forgiving, yes, loving, but most important, our spiritual growth. Important for us to perhaps think about it, because Emmanuel, in his books, he emphasizes that our inner peace is cultivated when these virtues are practiced not just once, but consistently, so that we are able to align our personal will with the divine will. And I love reading Emmanuel, because it makes too much sense. And if you think about it, right, Jesus's life is a life that provides us with a living model for all those principles. So, who is Jesus? And we call him the guide and model for all humanity. Why? Because he exemplifies moral and spiritual perfection that is attainable. We are imperfect spirits, but we are perfectible. So Jesus teaches that we can also attain, as part of members of humanity, the same level of moral and spiritual perfection. And he comes to us to teach that spiritual truth transcends social status and, yes, appearance. I'm sorry to say, for all of us that spend so much energy trying to look good, be good, and climb the social ladder, it's not required. The spiritual truth is above all of that. True power, we are told, also lies in the feelings of compassion, but also when we talk about compassion being love in action, right? The charity, love in action, and service is also love in action. So true power lies in all of that sense of the awareness that we, by doing, by being charitable, by being compassionate, by being of service, we are able to demonstrate that that power, right? And the other thing that it's an important lesson from Jesus is that every act of love and forgiveness, yes, we go back to forgiveness, brings us closer to the kingdom of God within us. And I love it, because that's when we see that God is within us all the time. It's not an external, I need to get to God. It's already there. And whenever we are able to love as a feeling, but also an expression, an act of love that we do, then we, that spark, the divine spark that is within us, gets, instead of that pilot flame, it gets much stronger and warms us and provides us the light that we're all seeking. So um, I like to think about a philosophical view of those truths. And with that, I would say that Tolstoy, right? He saw Jesus' teachings also as a practical guide to an ethical living, right? And he would say that morality should be actionable, not right an abstraction. So action, not abstraction. So let's think about it because it's easy for us to live in the world of theories, of words, of books, of teachings, but until we are actually exemplifying those teachings, we are not there yet. But if I say that, then I have to ask myself, how can we bring these lessons into our daily lives then? So, well, I can do that when I'm able to integrate Jesus' teachings. And what I mean by that is, let's say, 5 points, right? By number one, practicing humility. Yes, that's his whole life is about humility. So, practicing that. And I do that when I value my own and everybody else's simplicity. Number two, I can integrate Jesus' teaching by loving, as I mentioned, actively. How do I do that? By having, by being compassionate, but having compassion, by being supportive, and by feeling empathy, having that very strong emotional intelligence and empathy for all of those who are going through ups and downs, joys and sorrows, right? Number three is I do that by forgiving sincerely and being free because I'm able to release any feelings of resentment that is truly a prison, everyone. I can also integrate Jesus' teachings by praying. Yes, every time I pray and I pray with an intention, I get closer to live and breathe the teachings of Jesus. And finally, I would say I can do that also by remaining faithful as well as aligned to all the spiritual, the divine laws. So when I say through these practices we grow spiritually, I am also saying that we experience, as I do that, as I mature, I experience inner transformation, and I also am closer, right? I'm preparing myself for that higher life that Spiritus promises to us. But what else do we know about Jesus according to Spiritus? So I'm going to be very brief here because Emmanuel, through Chico Xavier's mediumship, uh, describes Jesus quite beautifully, right? He says, and I quote, the living light that needs no human lamps. That's what he says about Jesus, the living light that needs no human lamps. So when we think about Christmas, we should not just think about it's the birth of a child in a historical event millennia ago, but as the awakening of that light within ourselves. So, according to Emmanuel, Christmas and the birth of Jesus is this, symbolically speaking, call for our inner illumination. Love it. Thank you, Emmanuel. And Andre Luis, in his series, several of his books, he'll tell us that those dates, Christmas, right, as a festive moment, uh, creates waves of peace that resonate not only on earth but throughout the spiritual world. And I love when I think about it. It's not just I'm going to be very sour here, a capitalist type of work, of event that we spend money and we get gifts that maybe we don't want, and we give gifts that nobody wants, and it just moves the economy wrong. No, it is every time that I smile, that I think about Jesus and the birth of this amazing spirit on earth, we are bringing those waves of peace, of light, and it is felt by all. So, Andre Luis says that even spirits will feel the energy of, in the spiritual dimension, of harmony and hope that we, each one of us, are emitting. Is it a song? Is it a time to celebrate with our coworkers? Is it a time to be with our family members? Is it a time to hug, to wish for happiness, right? This is that spiritual influence that Christmas does to all of us. And Joanna De Angelis, my mentor, I'm a student, avid student of Joanna, right? She describes Jesus as this archetype of self. And I'm not going to extend here, we just don't have enough time to talk about the entire discussion on arche- archetypes in psychology, right? But the archetype of the self is the main archetype. So, from that psychological and spiritual perspective, Joanna will teach us that Jesus represents the archetype of our own higher self, right? So, from her, we learned that Christmas is the symbolic invitation, in this, the birth of Jesus in this case, mirrors the potential for our awakening and the awakening of the deep self within us. So it's not enough to celebrate externally. Let us all, this is a beautiful invitation, but let us all internalize the teachings in letting them guide our thoughts, our emotions, our actions. And I just wanted to say it is so, so beautiful what we learn from Spiritism about the man Jesus. But let's just spend a few more minutes discussing the the symbolic meaning of Christmas. So, as we go ahead, I would say that Christmas is brings this symbolic journey inward. It's an invitation. There is so much impact, but it's very interesting because each of those, the manger, the star, the shepherds, the magi, they have a specific meaning. And I want to say that the manger itself, which we already alluded, is a symbol of simplicity and humility. And it's how we see the divine manifested in the ordinary. And we can pause to think about it, how and when and why we are able to demonstrate the divine in our day to day, in our storytelling to our children, in how we feed the poor, if we're doing those types of activities, if we are doing work and serving with humility, with simplicity, all of it, that manifestation of our love within us from God in everyday aspects of our lives is immense to all of us. But if we think about the star, what does it mean? The star means that conscious, that is guiding our inner path, right? The light from above that shines in our path, but it's what is the guide? It is our own conscience. So, this is again an invitation for us with all the allegories of the stories that we tell and that we hear around Christmas time, right? That we may be listening and abiding perhaps to what is our calling, our everyday calling, and it is a call for our growth, our spiritual awakening, our conscious, our expansion of our consciousness, and growth of our maturity levels. And but there's more, right? And now we can talk about the shepherds, and I love it. Such a uh, in the when we're celebrating, we see the shepherds and we see, oh, to be born amongst the most simple of the simplest uh, folks out there. But the symbolic reference of the shepherds is actually a very beautiful one, which means those that take care. And for them to care for the animals, in this case, they must be vigilant, they must be aware of their surroundings and caring for those animals. So the shepherds are there as a symbolism for ourselves. Let us all be vigilant. Vigilant of what? Our thoughts, our emotions, our feelings, right? Our words, our actions, our inactions, our choices to many times to be aloof, to not react to when we see something wrong, that too counts. So let us all be consciously vigilant and consciously aware of our lives. And last one here would be the Magi, right? And I love it because the symbolism for them in this beautiful story is actually our education, our intellect, our knowledge, all the IQ that we gather in the service of the EQ, right? So the intellectual intelligence to the emotional intelligence, all of what we are learning is really to go to the largest distance in our lives, which is from our head to our heart. It is such a long journey, but the Magi, they symbolize that. So I wanted just to share that Emmanuel teaches the following. Now, and I read here: seek the Christmas that begins in the heart and extends through the hands, right? The hands, he's always providing this call toward service, toward action. So he says, he teaches us the practical love is expressed through charity, but also through our reconciliation, right? When there is a conflict in our hearts, let us seek reconciliation through self love, self forgiveness, self compassion. But also, when there are conflicts within our family members, let us seek reconciliation. If there are conflicts outside and it's a larger and larger circles, let us seek that sense of forgiveness, reconciliation, and peace. Peace within ourselves, peace in our homes, and the peace on earth as the spirit of Christmas calls for all of us. I mentioned Joanna de Angelis as she emphasized that she brought to us the idea that Jesus is the archetype of the self, and she emphasizes that, and she really says that for us, as Jesus, I mentioned before, mirrors the awakening of our higher self. Let us celebrate this evidence that we are mirroring that Jesus Christ brought to us, right? So from symbolism, we now go into another aspect of today's discussion, which is the idea that Christmas has a social mission, right? And Andre Louise reminds us that Christmas begins at home, right? So it's really important for us to start with that. Uh, let us bring, let's be the peace in our homes. And Andre Louise also reminds us that a home that is harmonious radiates peace. And he will go on to say that it supports not only our life on earth, right, but also all of those spirits that may be suffering. Think about it, right? All those spirits in the spiritual dimension that may be suffering, they receive the guiding light and the harmony that we emanate from our home. So things that may be deemed small carry such a weight, such as prayers or at home. And I'm thinking here, uh, soft music. We talked previously on reconciliation, those gestures of removing or addressing conflicts, they will transform the atmosphere, the psychosphere of the home, but also is contagious. So it's important for us to perhaps think of our family gatherings. Can be a meal together, right? It can be, if you are far from each other, it can be a message electronically signed, or I love them, a card written by hand, or a phone call, whatever it is, reach out, because those that getting close heart to heart are opportunities, and special opportunities if they can also um, bring back a spiritual repair and growth for to spirits, right? So let us do that. Let us be together. Let's celebrate togetherness. Let's strengthen our own sense of emotional health, emotional well-being, and our sense of empathy by doing that through forgiveness and healing. That's a spiritual, very strong spiritual healing when we're able to um, put together, unite those bonds that were broken through conflict. Emmanuel reminds us that Jesus, and it's in the screen here, Jesus was born among the poor to teach fraternity, not appearances. So Christmas is an inspiration. It is a calling for those acts of service, as he keeps talking about. But it's really all about how can I extend love beyond myself to the home, beyond the home to all of those, especially those who are needy and who are marginalized. So let us think and consider that. What is it that I can do to bring the light higher than what it is right now? Let's make these lessons also practical in our daily lives. And with that, as we come very close to our end, let us reflect together, right? How can we bring the spiritual lessons into our daily lives this Christmas? There are some simple ways to do that, and I'm just going to give you my personal thoughts. Right? Let's commit to 5 minutes of meditation, of silence. Let us also commit to take a moment as part of your family, our families, to pray together. In my case, we do gospel at home. In your case, maybe some other form of prayer. Let's do that. Let's also seek through our thoughts and memories, are there any hurt? Are there things that perhaps, even if I'm not consciously aware, but it's there? Let's, those things are gnawing at us. Let's go back. And if there are areas of conflict, whatever they may be, let us seek to reconcile, especially those that really needs our forgiveness, right? And that includes ourselves, by the way. And let us commit to some charitable act. And this is important for us to think about it. I'm not only talking about a coin or a cash contribution to a foundation, to a charitable work or somebody who needs it. Let us also, this is probably much more important at this time, um, maybe that from my viewpoint, but let us be charitable with our time and our emotional support. If I know somebody that is a terrible, they just talk too much, but they need to be heard, let us listen. If that person may be an invisible, quote unquote, invisible person, because it's not part of my world, let us pay attention to those. It can be, I don't know, the cashier at a hotel or at a restaurant or the wait staff or somebody in an airplane. Let us look, let us connect. Maybe those people are overworked or they're going through some troubled time. Let us look to the other. We all need to be seen, right? And finally I would say, um, from now, yes, from now until New Year's, I would like for all of us, including myself, on a daily basis, read a small passage. And it can be from a sacred text, right? The Bible, Old or New Testament. It can be a gospel according to Spiritism. It can be your favorite book of message. Let's just read a positive message on a daily basis. Let's open our hearts to be light, right? And I would like to just consider those questions as we go through the next few days together. Who do I need to forgive? Let me say, me, I don't need to forgive anyone. Let us think, maybe I need to forgive. This is a joke, but I need to forgive my neighbor when I was 5 years old who did something that upset me, whatever, even if you don't need, but let's forgive in our minds, right? Let's list and be very generous right now at this time of this year with our forgiving. Another question I'd like for all of us to think about it. What is it that needs to be born anew within me? Is it patience? Is it a smile? Is it generosity? Is it courage? Let's look at it. Something that maybe I used to be when I was, I don't know, I'm picking up a number, right? I was 24 years old and I felt I was invincible. Let's let's allow that strength, that sense of strength be born again right now. Let's give that as a gift to ourselves. And we can also ask ourselves, what part of my life needs light? whatever that is. Is it the darkness, something that we are repressing, that we're judging, that we're unable to look at it, and we need to, you know, symbolically speaking, just turn on the light to look at ourselves? Or is it something that I am just not ready to deal with it right now? Let's look for those parts of ourselves and understand that for Christmas, light abounds. And finally, I would like to ask all of us, listening again to the words from Emmanuel, if love is requires that action through charity, right? Through service, let's ask ourselves, who can I help or support? It doesn't have to be material support or help, but who is that one person that I commit to do it this Christmas? This will be my act of service. But at this time, let us conclude by focusing maybe perhaps on who we're here to do, which is on the light of Jesus. So as we conclude, I just wanted to remember all of us Christmas is a reminder that that light overcomes darkness, that love always, always finds a way, and that Jesus continues in inviting each one of us, each one of our hearts to be reborn like he was born that day so many years ago in the manger. And he's inviting us to do so in a very conscious, peaceful, and fraternal way. So from me to you, I wishing you a Christmas full of the light of Jesus, but also may this Christmas be a spiritual rebirth for all of us, a time of reconciliation, and a heartfelt act of service to the world. And with that, I would say thank you for all of you to be here with me today. May the light of Jesus illuminate every step of our journey this season and into next year. Hey, Yuri, you're here. You are on mute, sir.
Hello, hello.
Yes, you are back now.
All right, all right. Thank you so much, Marcia, for the very kind presentation. I love how you gave practical tips at the end, small gestures of kindness that can really go a long way. And it's always important to remind ourselves the message that Jesus brought, especially in this time of holidays of Christmas, so we're
Yeah,
not losing focus of what the true light actually is instead of just the Christmas lights out there. So
yeah.
thank you so
Uh-huh.
much, Marcia. Any final thought perhaps for those who are watching us, and then
Just celebrate, right? Celebrate, as Joanna DeAngelo said, because this is a call for enlightenment and brotherhood. We, more than any other time, we become closer to one another. So let us do that, and let's celebrate our fellowship, our fraternity, our love as children of God.
love that. Thank you so much, Marcia. Happy holidays to everyone. We'll see you guys next year. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Yuri. Bye, everyone.